For me, I think student entry is the easiest way to get in here inside Canada. And I think it's one of the fastest pathway as well to get your PR, but it's the most expensive way.
Okay, so the student pathway is the easiest way to get into Canada. There are improvements being rolled out to help international students get permanent residence faster, but it's also the most expensive way. Let's get that out. But before we break this down, let me show you how easy it is to find the information that you need about immigrating to Canada. And that is as easy as 3 steps.
Step 1, go to your search engine. Step 2, search Immigrate to Canada. Step 3, access the top result, that is the IRCC website labeled Immigrate to Canada. So I would say this is actually the most official guide that you would get. You're going to see the different streams available to you. The express entry is the stream that I applied through. Provincial nominee is Jade's stream. The Atlantic Immigration Program is run by the 4 Atlantic provinces. Temporary residence to permanent residence stream.
Okay, so student pathway. When do you consider taking the student pathway to move to Canada? And what do you want to think about when you're considering taking the student pathway to immigrate to Canada?
What's other pathways to go get a permanent residency in Canada without having to go on a work permit? Our scores weren't enough for the express entry. So what's the plan?
So I would say consider taking the student pathway when the timeline is short. For example, you're older in age, and where in the express entry, the older your age number gets, the less points you can get on express entry. Another is for when it's super duper urgent that you get out of the country. So for example, it's economic uncertainty or political uncertainties. And finally, consider the student pathway when the express entry is not a viable option. Given that some student pathways, or many student pathways, are actually built into express entry or permanent residence, there are also streams where it's really possible to leverage on your work experience like Jade did and get a provincial nomination. If you're at 300, overshoot that with an extra 600, and then you can get an express entry invitation to apply. Now, what are things you want to be thinking about when you're dead set on, okay, I'm going to take the student pathway? One, I would say, is cost. It's cost of tuition and cost of living. And for example, the business diploma, 2-year diploma business in a college in Ontario would cost you 15,000 Canadian dollars, and the community college in Nova Scotia would cost you a little under 12,000 Canadian dollars in tuition. So tied to that, it's not only the tuition itself, but also the location. Where do you want to go to school? What province do you want to live in? And think about it long term, where you're probably not just going to want to move to Canada to study. A lot of people actually would think about a student pathway because this would bridge into a permanent residence stream, and then of course Canadian citizenship. So then if you're going to wind it back and take it back a little bit, what is the main goal and what is the situation now? Do you have that much money to spare for tuition and cost of living? Right now there's only 20 hours allowable for people on a student permit. And is that really going to be enough to help you support your tuition and probably your financial obligations back home? So there's again, like, these different costs and different things to think about. Where do you want to sell? Where do you want to move? Where do you want to study for now and see how it affects you later on, or your finances later on, or even now?
During the pandemic and up until now, laki ng tulong ng student sa Canada. Tsaka yun, parang mas napabilis, tsaka madami na yung programs to become a permanent residency if you are a student and you have a valid work permit.
And another consideration would be the immigration pathway. So like Chip said, they're like probably one of the easiest ways to get into a permanent residence stream. But do take note, some provinces are becoming more vigilant in terms of protecting their own international student, like the international students that they have in their own province. So they may roll out policies that are not as friendly to international students from outside that province, right? So you don't want to, that's the last thing that you want. You're stuck in a province where your chances of getting permanent residence is slim just because it's just too much competition. Add to that is the point of future career prospects and the program that you're going to choose. So for example, in Celine's case, what she did was she did her application DIY, and she was able to get her application approved in, I guess, less than 6 months. And she was able to basically convince the visa officer to give her that, because not only did her statement of purpose make sense in total, but also she was able to align her future career prospect in reality with the specialization that was offered at the school that she pursued in PEI, right? So it's having this alignment and having a story so well strung together that it helps your application, and it also helps you in the long term. So she decided to go to PEI versus the school that she was looking at in Ontario, and that helps them financially. They do have 2 kids who they have to support back home. It also helps them in terms of the community that they want to be part of right now, the Filipino community in PEI. It's still growing very much, because still many students prefer the bigger provinces. So they're going to be part of that growth of that smaller province that they chose to settle in, right? So it's many things that you might want to think about. And the last thing I would say is, do you want to do your application, do it yourself, or do you want to hire a consultant? And again, this would pad into the cost again. So you have your tuition, and you might need to pay an immigration consultant depending on the complexity of your situation. For example, one of my friends, a family of 6, 4 kids and 2 parents, they were being quoted 4 million pesos. And somebody who's strapped for cash, that might be too much, right? So you're gonna have to scale it back, or maybe just do it DIY, to save more money. And there's so many success stories of people doing it DIY, and the information is readily out there. So basically, I just want to share this information. Don't fall prey to scams, and just really leverage on all your strengths and what you know about information like this. So I do hope that you find this useful, points for you to think about. And if you do have any questions, please drop a comment down below. I'll find the information, try to find the information to help you guys out. But again, if you like this video, I hope that you hit the like button, share it with your friends, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much for watching this video, and see you in the next